back, Gothamites. If you're new here, hi. I'm London, aka History of the Batman. While Batman has been in many live action films since 1943, there are some projects that unfortunately never saw the light of day, and that could have been awesome additions to this Caped Crusader's long live action cinematic history. So for this video, we are going to highlight both well-known and kind of obscure film projects that were either presented to the studio and was unfortunately rejected, or began pre-production but was ultimately shelved. We will see not only why these cancellations occurred, but also look at these films, its themes, and its plot points, and see if they can possibly be made in the future. But before we talk about canceled Bat films, why don't you subscribe to this channel and become part of this wonderful Gothamite community. A couple things before we start our list. One, I'm sure many of you have clicked on this video because of the title of this video. It is not clickbait. I actually will be discussing the Release the Snyder Cut movement. So if that's all you care about, it's not gonna hurt my feelings. It's fine. You can jump to this timestamp right here, and that is where I will be talking about it towards the end of the video. Oh, and second, I have a new Batman print up there that I really love. And I wanted to show it. I hope the glare is just not an issue, but I think you guys can see it. My parents and my sister went to San Luis Obispo last week, and they went to this awesome shop called Rocket Fizz, which is a soda pop and candy shop, but they also have tons of nerdy Batman goodness like these. And my mom and my sister wanted to get me something Batman because they love me and my nerdy endeavors, and they wanted me to put it on the wall within my Batcave. The guy that helped him on YouTube, his name is Dan the Man Reviews, which here's a screenshot right here, and I will put that info in the description below. And I want to say thank you to him for helping out my mom and my sister picking this out and just being really awesome. They said you were so nice. Thank you so much for helping them get me this Batman print because it's so dope. Okay, now we're actually gonna start the video. I'm sorry. Okay, our first movie is The Batman. After the success of 1978's Superman film, Warner Bros. Wanted another superhero hit, and of course turned to their other major icon, Batman. In the same year, producers Michael Uslan and Benjamin Melniker bought the Batman film rights so they can produce a more dark and menacing Batman for the big screen and steer away from the very campy exterior that Batman has had ever since the late 60s TV series and film starring Adam West. While over the course of practically a decade, this particular script for the new dark Batman was in basically rewrite hell. The first and most influential script came from Tom Mankiewicz, and one of his script's major comic book influences was Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers' late 1970s arc Batman Strange Apparitions. The first director hired for Mankiewicz's script was Ivan Reitman, who would go on to direct the 1984 film Ghostbusters. This Batman film, which at the time was titled The Batman, had major differences from Tim Burton's final project that would come out in 1989. One being that the story would focus on not just Batman's origins, but also Dick Grayson's Robin origin story. Also, the frontrunners for Batman, Robin, and the Joker, who would be the central villain of the film, were Bill Murray, Eddie Murphy, and David Bowie, respectively. However, the studio had their eye on Tim Burton after he made tons of money with films such as Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, and hired him as a director instead. Bringing Burton in not only meant that Reitman was out, but also Tom Mankiewicz's script was ultimately scraped, meaning that the love interest wouldn't be Silver St. Cloud as in Strange Apparitions, but it would be Vicki Vale. But if you look at Kim Basinger's Vicki Vale, she looks just like Silver St. Cloud in the comics. So there would be no Robin in the movie at all. There would be a different Batman and Joker, who would be Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. The entire city of Gotham would have a way more gothic aesthetic, and many other changes like that. So in the end, The Batman became Batman and was released on June 23rd, 1989, and of course made cinematic history in many different ways. Next we have Catwoman. Although Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel film, Batman Returns, turned out to be way too dark for the studio, Michelle Pfeiffer's Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, already had a cult following and was an automatic fan favorite. Because of this, after Batman Returns, Michelle Pfeiffer would have received her own Catwoman spin-off film, which, because this Catwoman project was priority on Warner Brothers' list, that's why you didn't see Catwoman in Batman Forever, which would be the next Batman movie, which came out in 1995, because she was having her own adventures in her own movie. But once Warner Brothers wanted a more lighter Batman film because of the response that they received from Batman Returns, and they went with director Joel Schumacher instead of director Tim Burton, and Tim Burton became a producer on Batman Forever. Pfeiffer's Catwoman, which is much, much darker than ultimately what Schumacher's Batman Forever would have been, meant that they weren't meshing well within this Batman universe anymore, and the project was kind of pushed aside, but still was going to be done. However, it ultimately became that since Batman Forever was released and that movie was a financial success, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman just didn't fit within this universe anymore. Years went by and Pfeiffer was not interested within the project anymore. And ultimately, after recasting and rewriting in 2004, we did get the Catwoman movie. Just not the one many had hoped, but it is Catwoman that stars Halle Berry. But oh man, I love Halle Berry, don't get me wrong. But Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman movie, all the movie, like adapting like Her Sister's Keeper and awesome late 80s books like that, or even Jim Balin's Catwoman stories in his run in the early 90s, man, that would have been so dope. But it's fine. Our next movie is Batman Unchained. Now, as I mentioned in our last movie, after 1992's Batman Returns was way too dark for Warner Brothers because they wanted to expand to a larger audience, they decided to have a lighter version of Batman and his mythology, and they brought in Joel Schumacher, who then directed the 1995 film Batman Forever, which would star Val Kilmer and not Michael Keaton, because Keaton wanted to stay with Tim Burton, who was dropped to a producer on the project and not a director because he didn't have his gothic vision for this third installment of this Batman franchise. Now, financially, despite what many people may think, Batman Forever did awesome in the box office. So because of this financial success, Warner Brothers wanted Schumacher to do not one Batman movie, but two more after Batman Forever. The next film would ultimately be 1997's Batman and Robin. However, Schumacher really wanted to do a little bit of a darker Batman movie that was way more psychological than Batman Forever, which I think is super interesting, and I believe that because if you see most of the deleted scenes from Batman Forever, they are really deep. And it does dive into Batman's psyche and Bruce Wayne's psyche, so I can totally see Schumacher really wanting to expand upon that within Batman's mythos. But the studio was like, no, we're doing Batman and Robin first, but then the second movie, which would be called Batman Unchained. Now, maybe you've heard of Batman Triumphant, which is a canceled Batman movie, and this is this movie, but for some reason a fan named it Batman Triumphant and it just stuck, but that was never the name of this project. This project has always been Batman Unchained. Schumacher, thinking that Batman and Robin would be just fine because look how well Batman Forever did, started really working on everything Batman Unchained, and would technically be the fifth film in this franchise. Now, I know people think that the Burtonverse and the Schumacherverse are two separate different things, but no, they are all within one universe. They just have different aesthetics and tones and ultimately three different Batman, but hey, it's all within the same umbrella of a franchise. Now, seeing what Schumacher envisioned for Batman Unchained, it would have been insane. Written by Mark Protosevich and would still star George Clooney and Kris O'Donnell as Batman and Robin. The story would be about Batman, who is stuck in Arkham Asylum and is now under the influence of Scarecrow's fear toxin, and while he's having all these hallucinations, has to mentally and physically battle his way out of Arkham. Because he's in Arkham and he sees all of these crazy hallucinations, tons of villains were said to be put in this one movie. Scarecrow would have been played by Nicolas Cage, which But would have added Harley Quinn, who just debuted in 1992, but was of course an overnight sensation, and that would have been played by either Courtney Love or Madonna. And then Schumacher wanted to bring back basically all of the rogues from Batman, Batman Returns, and Batman Forever. So we would have gotten Jack Nicholson's Joker, Danny DeVito's Penguin, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face, and Jim Carrey's Riddler, all in one movie battling Batman. That is madness. But of course, as we know, 1997's Batman and Robin bombed real hard in the box office and was a failure in the eyes of both critics and fans alike. So that project was completely scraped. And now we'll never know how Batman Unchained was going to be, and there was no fifth Batman movie within this film franchise. Our next movie is a Robin spin-off. Now, of course, in 1995's Batman Forever, which starred Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne/Batman, Kris O'Donnell debuted as Dick Grayson, aka Robin. Because of the financial success of 95's Batman Forever, the studio actually wanted to do a spin-off about Dick Grayson's Robin starring Kris O'Donnell, which he talked about a little bit for the first time only in 2012. So it was a serious project that the studio wanted to do, but after 97's Batman and Robin, they were like, no way. They wanted to step away from this franchise and everyone involved in it as much as possible. Batman and Robin just really messed it up for people. Our next movie is Batman Dark Knight. Now, during the time that Joel Schumacher was working on Batman and Robin and Batman Unchained, writers Lee Shapiro and Stephen Wise wanted to reboot the entire Batman franchise. Because if any character knows anything about reboots, it's definitely Batman. Shapiro and Wise's movie actually would have had Bruce Wayne's Batman retired and Dick Grayson off to Gotham City University. And working at Gotham City University would have been Dr. Jonathan Crane as a professor. Crane would test his fear toxin on both students and the staff. But one of the staff members is actually Dr. Kirk Langstrom. And after he is exposed to the fear toxin, it transforms him into Man-Bat, which means that Bruce has to come out of retirement, come back as Batman, and fight off Man-Bat. Once again, I would have loved to have seen that. I would really want to know how they would make Man-Bat, like what the CGI would look like what are we really working with? I like the fact that Bruce is retired, that Dick Grayson's actually going to college, because I always want that boy to go to school. It took him 40 years in comics to actually go to school, so I appreciate that. There's just a lot in that sounds super interesting to me. But unfortunately, after shopping the script around, even after the tanking of Batman and Robin, no one really wanted to do it, and so the project got shelved, and we probably will not see Batman Dark Knight anytime soon. Our next is Batman Year One. Now, I'm telling you, people may want to give crap to Schumacher, but he really is not a bad director or a bad person. And even his Batman films aren't as bad as people want to say. I mean, they're really not, but that's something for an entirely other video. But Schumacher tried his best to give y'all a Batman movie that you would like. Because one of the other Batman projects that he really wanted to do, he wanted to do a Batman origin story movie. And what he really wanted was to adapt Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli's 4-issue series Batman Year One, which originally was published in 1987. However, after 1997's Batman and Robin, Warner Bros. Was like, no, we can't have Schumacher attached to the project, but we do like this Batman Year One idea, so instead we're going to bring in another director, and that will be Requiem for a Dream's Darren Aronofsky. And Warner Bros. Was so serious about this project, they even brought in Frank Miller himself to write the script. So of course, that script had tons of violence. You know, he's extra. He's great, fantastic, wonderful writer, but it's a lot. Like every time. But I'm here for that extraness, you know? But of course, like many of these films on our list, the first script turned into a third script, which was actually headed by Joss Whedon. But ultimately, by 2002, the project was shelved and Batman Year One was ultimately not even thought of and is collecting dust over at Warner Brothers. But I am fine with the 2011 animated adaptation of Batman Year One. It's literally the same as the comic and the art is outstanding. So I'm content for now. This next one, I love the animation and I do want a live action film of it because everyone wants a live action film of it. And of course, that's Batman Beyond. Now, if you don't know, which you might not, I don't assume anything. Batman Beyond was a TV series that came out in 1999 and was part of the classic DC animated universe and was a spin-off from the shows Batman the Animated Series and The New Batman Adventure. And Batman Beyond follows a new character, teenager Terry McGinnis, and he is trained by an older and now retired Bruce Wayne to be the new Batman of this neo-Gotham City. And Batman Beyond, of course, takes place about 20 years into the future. Batman Beyond, even to this day, is considered one of the best Batman cartoons, period. And at the time, in particular in 1999, in that year, fans were going crazy for it, and Warner Brothers loved it just as much. So to hop on this hype train, Warner Brothers was really seriously considering doing a Batman live action movie that would include Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, who were the original producers on the animated show, to write the live action film, and would have Boaz Yakin as the director. Pretty solid team. However, in the summer of 2001, Paul Dini mentioned Batman Beyond and said that the live action film was not being made. It's pretty much canceled. And of course, what happened later that year? The Batman Beyond TV series was canceled as well. Okay, our next movie is Batman vs. Superman. I know, right? So familiar. So before Zack Snyder's DC Extended Universe film, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, which came out in 2016, in the early 2000s, while Bryan Singer's Superman Returns was being made, writer Andrew Kevin Walker actually penned a script called Batman vs. Superman and gave it to Warner Brothers, which basically had Bruce Wayne's Batman, who is older and retired, having to fight a divorced Clark Kent, aka Superman, which is all under the evil gaze of Lex Luthor. Because that doesn't sound familiar to you, right? And the thing is, Warner Bros. Actually really liked this project. It was almost in production. Not just pre-production, but production in 2004. However, of course, after a few rewrites and change in directors, because that's what happens, Warner Brothers just decided that they should split the two DC icons into their own solo films, which is how we got Batman Begins and Superman Returns. Our next movie is probably one of the most fully developed projects that has come out of Warner Brothers that ultimately got canceled. And that is, of course, Justice League Mortal. Now, during the same time that the studio was talking about having a separate Batman and Superman solo movie, they were also thinking about giving solo movies to other Justice League members, such as Wonder Woman, which would have been directed by Joss Whedon. And I have seen that script. It's something. Even though they were seriously considering solo films, Warner Bros. Decided, you know what, screw the solo films. Let's just put all the Justice League into one movie right out the gate. No introduction. So this movie ultimately became Justice League Mortal, written by Kieran and Michelle Maroney and directed by George Miller. Now, this isn't just like an idea. The movie had a full cast. Everyone had their parts, and Armie Hammer would have been Batman, which is why if you hear a lot of people saying, oh, Armie Hammer should be Batman like today, it's because of Justice League Mortals. Everyone really wanted to see him as Batman. It had a full script. You can go get the script. There are copies of the script in existence. The entire plot of this movie is done. The whole movie is basically good. They were ready to film. However, there were a couple of things that ultimately canceled Justice League Mortals in 2007 and 2008. One, there was a huge writer's strike at Warner Brothers. And second, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy universe was just bonkers awesome, including his 2008 film The Dark Knight, which is considered one of the greatest superhero films of all time. So because of Christopher Nolan's success with the Batman franchise and other things, they're like, oh, we don't need Justice League Mortals. We're doing just fine. And it's actually good that Justice League Mortals was our last film that we discussed, because this leads me into Justice League. In particular, the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So if you skipped to this part, hi, how you doing? Welcome back. I do want to briefly talk about the DC Extended Universe's Justice League, what the Release the Snyder Cut movement is, and ultimately why everyone that's part of it needs to chill. In the DC Extended Universe, the movie Justice League came out in 2017. Zack Snyder, who helped write and direct and produce and had his own vision for this Justice League movie, suffered a horrible loss by losing his daughter, who committed suicide. Of course, being the normal human thing to do, Snyder left that project and any other project he was working on, and of course spent time with his grieving family. While they didn't decide to hold production, they wanted to keep going, they brought in Joss Whedon to help not only kind of fill in the blanks, but also there were different reshoots and rewrites to kind of make Justice League a little bit lighter than maybe the other films within this extended universe. Because them going heavy-handed dark just wasn't cutting it for a large majority of audiences. Not saying comic book audiences, because obviously they love that, but everyone else who goes to the movies, which is about 85%. So because of this, when Justice League did ultimately come out in November of 2017, many people saw that it wasn't exactly Zack Snyder's full vision of what he wanted his Justice League movie to be. Which I understand, because in movies you film so much content, but not everything makes the cutting room floor, and a lot of it was left out. Because of this, right from the beginning, many fans of Snyder's work, whether in the DC Extended Universe or just period, who really wanted to see his vision, started a movement now that they use the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut, because they want to see Snyder's version of Justice League and not the version that we received in theaters. I don't have an issue with people wishing that they can see what he wanted to do with this ensemble cast, with which villains, to expand upon Darkseid and all these different things. That is not the issue. It's not even the issue of whether or not the Snyder Cut exists. Because there's a full movie that can be put on Blu-ray and DVD tomorrow exists? No. There are scenes that are either fully edited, there's still green screen, their music is not there, the CGI is crap, that just isn't complete at all or halfway complete. Does that exist? Yes. People who are on the film say, yes, those things exist, such as Jason Momoa and Ray Fisher, who play Aquaman and Cyborg in the movie. Things exist. It's not a cohesive unit enough for mass consumption. I have two concerns about people who are part of the Release the Snyder Cut movement. The movie actually being a thing has not been my concern. Kevin Smith, who did a podcast interview, he even said, I don't know Zack Snyder super well. We are not like BFFs, but I know enough people who were on the movie to tell you that something of a Snyder Cut does exist. But it is not a movie. It is literally, you can watch the scenes, but in your mind, you have to know what goes where to fill in the huge gaps that exist within this project, which is not a movie. If tomorrow Warner Bros. Is like, you know what, we're gonna go forward and put in all of our money and resources into this project, and we're gonna put it out in fall of 2020, 2021, whatever, and it's gonna be a thing, an actual thing, I'd be like, okay, cool. That is not what is happening, though. There is no movie. And there are so many questions and mystery shrouded in this entire thing. That's the big issue. That's the big problem with release of Snyder Cut, because there are not enough facts to support that Warner Brothers should really put in their time, energy, resources, and money for this project that won't even tie in to what the DC Extended Universe is going to be, if it's even going to be a thing in the next year or 2 or even 3. Because as you can see, or maybe you don't pay attention and you don't care, whatever, there is a lot of revamping going on within the DC Extended Universe. In October, we're getting a movie called Joker that has nothing to do with the current cinematic universe. My question is it worth Warner Brothers putting in time, energy, money, resources to something that's not even going to push the agenda, the cinematic universe, the whatever projects that they're doing with their DC Comics properties? If it's just going to be a film that really isn't pushing forward the future of the DC Comics world, why do we need it? And if Warner Brothers does decide, yep, let's do it, and they give a date, which is not going to be this year, let's say earliest is fall of 2020, why? And if the simple answer is money, that is so fine with me, because people think that like Snyder Cut and other things are like fan projects, they're passion projects. No, this is part of a huge studio. They're not indie films. They're not little passion projects. They're concerned about making money. We forget that not everything is fan service. Most things are not fan service. However, there are so many people that feel so entitled to getting exactly what they want. And even when they have something and they're getting something, they want to complain. Nothing is ever good enough. I hate that, because we could have nothing. We could have no live action films. We could just be straight animated for like a decade and not have anything. But we're getting something. My second biggest, probably my biggest concern, why the movement is more toxic than helpful, is the bullying. Because there are many people who do know what the Snyder Cut is, what that means, and all of that, and they still have legitimate questions, such as, why would Warner Brothers put forth time, energy, resources, money, all these things towards this movie when we're 2 years, almost 2 years from the release of the original Justice League? If you do have to do reshoots of Ben Affleck's Batman or Henry Cavill's Superman or whatever, and they are not a part of the DC Extended Universe anymore, how's that working? Because trust me, it's not. And like I said, if the Extended Universe is being revamped and certain things are changing, how would this Justice League movie really push the narrative of the Extended Universe, Cinematic Universe, whatever it may be called, of all of this? How? It would be just stuck in the middle and not make any sense for the future movies. And other questions that do make sense, because we have more questions than answers when it comes to this Snyder Cut. But anytime someone just dares asks a logical question, there are people who are so into this Snyder Cut, they attack them online. I see it every day. And they make them feel stupid for asking a legitimate question. And all that does is make you look ignorant, because you don't like the fact that someone put a little hole in the intense fandom that you have. And that's not okay, because we're all fans. Clearly, if we're asking questions, if we're wondering what's going to happen, we all like these properties. Stop attacking people who have questions about something that is so mysterious. It's the most mysterious project dealing with Batman and DC Comics films in recent history. There's a difference between having passion for something and loving someone's work and wanting to see more of it, and just being a toxic fanboy girl doesn't matter the gender, toxic. You're just toxic towards people who legit are trying to figure this out, because there's nothing that really gives us any solid information to figure out if this is going to be completed, when it's going to be completed, how is it going to come out, and why the studio really wants to put it out. And Warner Brothers has been on deaf ears for 2 years. Me personally, if it gets made and is put out, that's great. I'll go see it. I'll go buy it. I have all the other movies. Why wouldn't I? If it doesn't, okay, I'm going to focus on the movies that I know are coming out, are in pre-production, are in production, like Joker, Birds of Prey, The Batman, Wonder Woman 1984, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, The Suicide Squad. All of those movies are happening. The Snyder Cut, we don't know if it's going to be complete. And even if you want to be like, no, I am all in Snyder Cut, that's me. Do you? Don't be an ass about it though. Don't make fun of people or bully people or make them feel bad because they have legit questions over an almost unicorn. Of course, at this point, it's pretty much a horse that decided to tape a horn on its head to say, yay, I'm a unicorn, because that's what the Snyder Cut basically is. It is something that is magical and would be so amazing, but is it real? Partially. But partially is not good enough. You have to understand from many people's standpoint why they ask questions. Not because they don't think it's real at all, but because there's just a lot of questions with it. So, from talking about the Snyder Cut and Justice League and all of the other practically 10 films that we have highlighted in this video, there have been tons of Batman projects that have been put on the shelf that sound amazing and would love to see them. However, I am very happy, and you should be happy too, with the Batman live action cinematic history that we do have, and that we can watch these films over and over again. But it's always interesting to figure, how would that Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman movie be? Because oh my god, I need that now. Thank you guys so much for watching this video about a history of canceled Batman movies. If you enjoyed this video, please give a bat thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the canceled Batman movies, what you would like to see. And sure, let me know your thoughts about the Release the Snyder Cut movement, because we all have different opinions and thoughts, and I really am interested in what is your take and your stance on this unreleased partial movie. As always, all of my social media is linked in the description below, including Instagram at History of the Batman. So why don't you give it a follow and become a Gothamite? Check out my videos for DC Comics DC Fans channel, and also, which is so exciting, I am starting a new Batman column with Kamikaze, and it is called Beyond the Batcave. Because not only do I talk about Batman's history, but I also put a realistic lens onto Batman's entire 80-year mythos. My first column is out, and it is called Why Detective Comics is Batman's Lifeline. And I only discuss the genesis of the Detective Comics publication, but also how it became a Batman book and why it is so important into saving Batman's life ultimately within his history. I will link that in the description below. Please check it out, and all the other reviews for Kamikaze. They are all so dope. Oh, and of course, please subscribe to this channel so you become a part of this Batman community. It would mean so much to me. Sorry if you hear background. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will have more History of Batman soon right here on YouTube. Remember, Gothamites, all about peace, love, and Batman. Bye.